A little white wine and some food, and then a night.
She surprised the robbers.
John, we've not heard anything from our people.
Thought they'd let me back here.
Lucy's still alive. Gruber took her inside a few...
You would think that making a game based on the Die Hard movie series would be just about the easiest thing in the world. When you go back and watch the movies, specifically the first movie, it really kind of already feels like it's set up like a game. You've got, John McClane, a one-man army against all these terrorists, and some of the terrorists are more generic, but there's some guys that kind of stand out, mid-boss style, final boss style. He's ascending from level to level in this building. There's a big payoff at the end. There's the tension with the hostages, but no one's really done it. Die Hard Vendetta for the GameCube does some things that other games haven't done before in the first-person shooter genre. But for the most part, you can lump it right in with the rest of the Die Hard games that you'll never, ever, ever want to play.
John, we've not heard anything from
Vendetta takes place several years after the Die Hard films. Lucy McClane is John's daughter, and she's all grown up and is a cop on the Century City Police Force. John McClane is now kind of this, aging, gray-haired guy. And the game takes you from location to location in search of some missing art. You'll be chasing after Hans Gruber's son, Hans Gruber being the villain from the first Die Hard, in what appears to be a gigantic revenge plot to get back at John McClane once and for all. John's daughter gets captured, so you'll have to go after her, rescue her, and you'll fight kind of a wide variety of generic terrorists, as well as kind of see some more notable bad guys along the way. The story is told from talking to characters in the level, though there are also cutscenes before and after most missions that kind of set up where the story is going as well. The game's cutscenes are done with the game's engine itself, but it's been pre-rendered as video, so it's kind of weird because if they just used the game engine, it probably would have actually looked a little bit better because the video compression really kind of makes everything look grainy and the colors are really off, and the cutscenes really just kind of take you out of the action and look really, really strange. The gameplay in Die Hard Vendetta is what you would expect from a console-based first-person shooter. It doesn't really go out of its way to really differentiate itself too often, but there are a few things that it does that previous games haven't really done. For starters, it probably has the most lenient auto-aim ever. You basically walk into a room, your cursor will go over, get on a guy, you pump the trigger a couple times, he's dead, you'll move right over to the next guy, just kind of automatically taking care of business for you. It really kind of takes all the skill out of playing the game. You'll walk in on hostage situations, and it'll auto-lock on to the guy behind the hostage, and you'll just be able to take him out that way. There's never really any difficult parts in the game because of this. Even in rooms full of 7-8 guys, you can just walk in, hit the trigger a bunch of times, and go on your way. You can turn off this auto aim feature, but unfortunately the game's control is really, really jerky. The aim stick specifically just is all over the place, and it snaps right back to the center when you let off. And you can make some adjustments here and there to the sensitivity, but overall, turning off the auto aim isn't really a much better option because then it becomes too difficult to hit your foes, just because it's so difficult to maintain aim. The game has a concept of stealth. You can hit a button and you'll take your gun back like this and walk a little slower. And what this does is it lets you sneak up behind guys. You can get behind guys who are engaged in conversation with some of their hostages or something. And you can actually get up behind them and grab them, put a gun to their head, and then kind of walk them around. As you're doing this, more often than not, the enemies in the vicinity will see this and drop their weapons. You can pick up their guns, and they'll go into like a bent over, arrested pose. From that point, you can push the guy over that you're holding, and he'll be arrested too, or you can actually just shoot him, which is pretty cool. Just holding him. It's neat. The graphics in Die Hard Vendetta are really only a few steps up from an N64 game. So a lot of the level textures look pretty weird. The frame rate's all over the place, and it just generally doesn't really look impressive at all. There are some things that do look better than others. Some of the textures, like if you run into signs and stuff, you can actually get up close and read them, and that looks pretty good. And the characters animate pretty well when they're speaking. of course, there's also this really weird thing with all the character heads where they just have these like really sunken-in eyes. They just look like they have these huge bags under their eyes, and I don't really know what the developers were going for here, but everyone just looks really creepy in the game. It's like you're walking around talking to a bunch of zombies or a bunch of speed freaks who haven't slept in a week or something. It's really weird looking. The sound isn't really much better. There's a lot of voice acting in the game because you can walk up and talk to just about anyone who isn't shooting at you, and they'll have a few lines of dialogue. And of course, there's a lot of speech in the cutscenes, a lot of speech when you're at story elements. In the levels, you'll have brief little cuts that'll have some speech there, and a lot of the voice acting just really doesn't do it. Some of it's actually quite good, but a lot of the good voice acting is kind of relegated to these real bit part characters that you never really see more than once. The voice for John McClane sounds like a gruff Will Ferrell voice, just a strange sounding voice for the character that doesn't really fit.
Hey, McLean here. I need an ambulance at the bank.
But for as off as the voice work is, the script is actually pretty decent. The characters do say a lot, and it all seems relatively meaningful. You'll find a lot of the Die Hard catchphrases thrown in there. Some of them work. A lot of them feel really, really forced. But for better or for worse, they're in there. Die Hard Vendetta is also quite possibly the dirtiest game ever created. It is just this crazy, curse-filled game. It's not really shocking. It's just kind of surprising that the game goes to these lengths to just throw like as many four-letter words as possible. When it comes down to it, fans of the Die Hard movie series deserve a great Die Hard game, and this is not a great Die Hard game. It's not a great first-person shooter, and it doesn't really particularly do anything very well. When you consider the games like Time Splitters 2 and James Bond Nightfire are out there, there's just really, shouldn't be any room in your collection for Die Hard Vendetta.